Hi, I'm Phil Palucha from Billionaires in Boxers, and you are about to engage with Up-Level Your Communication, hosted by Miluna. Wow, this is going to be powerful. Communication is at the heart of everything that is good about business and about sharing with your fellow humans, and Miluna is phenomenal at helping you share that message and also interview some pretty special and amazing guests too. Check it out right now.
Welcome to Up-Level Your Communication. I'm your host, Dr. Miluna Fausch. On this show, I will be interviewing some of the most interesting business people in the world. We'll focus on up-leveling your communication and leadership skills so that your voice can be heard and you can make an impact in the world. Welcome to Up-Level Your Communication. My guest today has a message to share: the changing face of the tech workforce. Now, I've had the pleasure of serving as her mentor since she was in high school. She's now a student at San Jose State University in San Jose, California, and will be entering the workforce in 2026. So let's tune into what my guest today has to say. Please welcome Maria Fernanda Palacios. Welcome to the show, Fernanda.
Hi, Miluna. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. The first question: what is it like being a college student in today's world?
A college student in today's world, well, I don't have any other worlds to compare it to, but it's been pretty good so far. I feel that the class of 2026, my class, is very open and very collaborative because we had to go through the pandemic during high school. So it's definitely been quite the experience, but overall pretty good.
What would you say, speaking for yourself and your friends, perhaps the folks you work with, what is on the minds of college students? Now, I'm generalizing, but what is on your mind?
Yeah. If I'm generalizing, I think a lot of self-improvement and a lot of self-growth. We're all coming out of high school, a time when we were probably not our best versions of ourselves, very much trying to find ourselves, and along the way picking up on insecurities and limiting beliefs that we're starting to question at this point. I feel, of course, like you said, I'm making generalizations, but that's my overall consensus of what I feel college is like, what's on our minds. And for me personally, I think I can very much relate to all those, unlearning those limiting beliefs we picked up along the way, and like constantly battling between am I doing enough, and also like my current self is more than enough right now. And a lot of very conflicting thoughts, more than in high school, and I'm expecting more than after college.
I love it. I'm not sure it will be more than after college. As you're saying that sounds like my life. And college is the perfect time to figure things out, and yet that never stops. So I love that you're doing that now, because the more you know about yourself, what you stand for, what you value, what your superpowers are, what you don't want to be doing, the better you're creating your life. So I salute you and your colleagues for digging in deep, because I think that's what college is for. I loved it. I found out a lot, realized what I didn't know, which was tons. And it was just an enjoyable experience. So I hope use my Southern on you. I hope all y'all are also enjoying the journey. Do you think that you are?
I love that. And yeah, I think we are. Yeah, maybe in a way we'll just become more comfortable with being uncomfortable later on, is what I hope. But yeah, I think even though it sounds pessimistic what I said, it truly is. Yeah, it's a privilege to be able to worry about those thoughts.
I like it because I think you just described life. Comfortable with being uncomfortable. Change. We've got a lot of chaos in the world. It's not such an easy time for folks. So we're doing our very best, aren't we?
Yeah.
Now, I know that you have a heart to serve. I've known that about you for several years as a volunteer and being involved in schoolwork and now college work and college organizations. Tell us about your involvement in student organizations on campus.
Yeah, like I said, when I started college, we were coming off of the pandemic, so a lot of the organizations consisted of just the minimum, the 3 members minimum, 1 president, 1 treasurer. And so there was a lot to choose from, but at the same time, not a lot in each of the organizations, one of which being Girls Who Code. That one, yeah, all the members graduated or wouldn't go to these Zoom meetings anymore. So once we were back on campus, Sai, I forgot her last name. I think it's Barathula, Sai Barathula. The club began and she reached out for more help, and I became the events director for our club. And yeah, we started off, our first meeting was probably less than 10 people, but we were so happy and it was a great success. And eventually we gained more recognition through consistently hosting events. And we've been able to collaborate with bigger companies and have more attendance and more membership. In this club, I've gone up in leadership positions just because of how early on I became involved. So yeah, after that, I became the vice president and then president. And I loved all those roles, but ultimately I joined because I love coding. So now I am going to be the technical development director.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is building a resume, isn't it? This is building your life. Now, you mentioned to me that Girls Who Code might be misunderstood, underestimated, even ridiculed. Tell us what's really going on, what you stand for, and why people need to take this seriously.
Yeah, that's part of why I joined. I kind of thought that we were the underdogs. And so I naturally gravitated towards, I want to join the underdogs because they're not actually underdogs. They're just, what you said. People are quick to make assumptions. And so yeah, what we stand for isn't women over men, women are smarter than men, or women's methods are better than men's. We have to have a space just for women and no men. That none of that is true. We actually rarely talk about the women's experience in tech. What we do mostly is code, and we have workshops that are related to the resume or that are related to very technical skills. And men are welcome to join. The only expectation we have for all of our members is to make it a safe and welcoming space for everyone, such that if someone has a question and maybe they wouldn't normally raise their hand in class, they would be very comfortable with raising their hand at our workshops, and a whole bunch of other women come up to you and help you get through the error together and realize that bugs and those errors are just part of the coding process and won't belittle you.
I love it. You're giving a safe space, mostly for girls and women, because it is a patriarchy. It is a male-dominated field. And so this is not anti-men. We're not saying that. People need to understand that. Because men are naturally favored around the world, women need to create sometimes a separate space and a place where we're safe and free from interference and certain types of energy. So I appreciate that you're so involved, and it sounds like making a difference and learning, right? This is how you master the craft, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Sometimes often all the bugs I run into I've never seen before, and so we have to really figure it out all together. It's very cool.
Good. Yeah. Good, isn't it? Figuring that out together. I'm going to ask the most valuable learning at San Jose State for you.
The most valuable learning. I like how many directions I could take with that question. I guess just for San Jose specifically, I feel that a lot of the professors, obviously I'm again making generalizations, not every professor, but a lot of them have worked in the industry before they became professors, and so value you reaching out to them to expand your network. And a lot of the students here I've met have like up to 3 jobs, and San Jose State isn't necessarily seen as a very prestigious private university. It's definitely more, a lot of people commute to school, a lot of people transfer from community college, and for some reason it makes people think it's less of a uni experience, less of a college experience, but it's still a college experience. And I really like my college experience here because there's so many people just that you're going to encounter in real life, you know? There's not always going to be people your age, in your tax bracket, around you. There's going to be people from all types, all walks of life and all different backgrounds.
That's fabulous, because that is the truth. The workforce will look different and continue to look that way. And I found in my undergrad, the folks who were also business people were so much better being professors and teachers. Mm-hmm. We're not knocking academia, but some of my teachers and music teachers had never performed publicly. They were always just a teacher. So they didn't know how to teach me what it would be like to perform or do some of the things that I learned. That's called life experience. And that's what we need, not just classroom instruction.
I agree.
Now, something we've talked about, and something we're just going to call it out. We're just going to call it right out here on my program. I was in Silicon Valley and in California for a number of years, Mountain View for 5 years, right in the heart of Silicon Valley. And many of the big tech companies are secretive, and they put profits over people. And we're not making a judgment. It is a fact. I witnessed that. I will not name any names publicly, but there is a very large technology firm. I won't say it because everyone will know. But one time I showed up for a meeting with an employee there, and we were supposed to meet, and I was supposed to do some coaching and work with them. And when I showed up, I think it took me an hour and a half by train, bus, or whatever to get there to this campus, which was not the main campus. I was told by security she was busy in a meeting and couldn't meet me. And I thought, well, this is the most fascinating thing. I was pissed. I was hurt. And I thought, oh, my time, my person, who I am means absolutely nothing. I'm a vendor. I'm a whatever. And I was also shocked, but I wasn't surprised on some level. Now, is this something you wrestle with? And how will you continue to contribute and have meaningful work by working with a company that shares your values?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm sorry that happened to you. I'd be equally pissed too. And I really, what resonated with me from that story was that you were hurt but not surprised. Because that's constantly what I feel like when I'm listening in on the tech news. I don't really listen to news too much because it can get very pessimistic, but I'll listen to well-curated tech news. And I'm often in that same headspace. Like, I'm surprised, but no, I'm hurt, or I'm disappointed, but not surprised. It's always like, it's like that relative that you know is going to mess up at every family reunion, repeating the same mistake over and over. And it seems to always go along the lines of, profits over people. And if you don't mind me asking, what was the last part, the question? I want to try.
How will you navigate this? Working in tech to ensure your values are honored and the company that you choose to work with matches your values and how you wish to be treated.
Yeah, so with that being said, I'm a student right now. I've had some exposure to the tech industry living in Silicon Valley, but also through internships and mentors, professors, and other students. So with that exposure, I feel that I gravitate towards companies that are very explicit about what they expect their work culture to be like, and recognize that a work culture is going to exist whether or not you recognize it. And also, another really big green flag I see is when managers or people in like leadership roles will often reference those pillars or values, and I think as long as it's everyone is trying their best, hopefully something like that won't happen. It's hard to say because I sometimes forget that I even have a choice in what I'm going to do later. It feels almost like they're picking us, but if I'm that's if I'm being honest. But as of right now, I think just how transparent they are, and also which values they have. Because for smaller companies, I've heard a lot of people say that really famous quote, the break things and move fast. And it's like, well, if you're going to be breaking things, like, I hope like it's not that type of thing where it's, ask for forgiveness, not
permission.
Permission, yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially now with all this AI stuff. I don't know if you've heard some of the music labels are suing a couple AI companies for not asking for permission. And it's because they were probably in that mentality of move fast, break things and move fast. And that's another way of saying, like, we'll just ask for permission. We won't ask for permission. We'll just ask forgiveness later. So yeah, it's just small. I think you just know, like, when you have those type of interactions with real life people that actually work at those companies, a lot of companies won't really work with student organizations. And so they're kind of more in the back of my mind, but the ones that will, I get like an experience of like, who did you want to hire for your company? And also just online, they'll post a lot of stuff. and yeah, also just what business decisions they've made. Those three are my answers.
I love it. Wise words from Fernanda. It's true. The companies that will work with you and will have employees and folks speak with you, those are the ones that you can go deeper and find information on and perhaps visit, feel the culture, feel the vibe, the energy. What are people talking about? Do they seem respected? What kind of benefits do they have? Yes, it's very complex. And I love what you said. You can always get a new job. We forget that. If it doesn't work, back when I was a kid, it was a stigma. You had one job your whole life. Well, my gosh, that has changed so dramatically. And we're not judged for having more jobs or being an entrepreneur or moving from company to company sometimes to learn and grow. It's no longer a negative thing. So there you go. Now, you made a beautiful segue to AI, machine learning, and yes, it was bound to happen because stealing of intellectual property, those of us who are also singers and actors, and we're not always paid for our work, and somehow that is not seen as a theft, when the person would never go into a store and steal a tangible item. But that is how artists make their living, is through intellectual property. So I want to ask you about all of this, and I think they're separate, but they're all interconnected. And one time my husband and I were staying in Silicon Valley. I'm not sure. We must have been visiting before we moved to Mountain View. That's what it was. I just thought through what it was. And there was for room service, and it was more or less beverages or candy bars, energy bars, more things like that. You could order on an app, and a little robot came to your door. And in the tray, there was your water and whatever you'd order. Now, I thought that was extremely cool. So this has been maybe 8-9 years ago, I'll say, probably by this time. So there is a very valid purpose and reason for robots, hazardous work that humans don't need to do. Machine learning, bots, robots, AI. How are you making sense of all this? And the second part of my question, how do we proceed carefully for the betterment of humanity using all of this?
Yeah. From a student's perspective, I think I seek a lot of knowledge in these ideas, because even as somebody who is very much thinks not that technology will save us, but that technology is one of our best tools. Even as like a technology optimist, I was very like, what is going on here? Because it's change. And I found it a little bit daunting. The whole idea of AI replacing us, or AI becoming too dependent of AI, and stuff along those lines. But so yeah, from a student's perspective, I think just finding out what machine learning is, how it differs from artificial intelligence, and then what deep learning is, and like putting labels on everything and really realizing what it is under the hood, you could say, has really helped me. Again, I think I forgot your question. I forgot where I was going with this.
I appreciate that, because this is as mystifying for you, sounds like, as the rest of us. And you're right in the heart of it in California and right there. The second part is, if you had a concern, or perhaps how do we need to move forward thoughtfully and carefully that it does what you said? It benefits humanity. It's not our savior. And some folks are all about tech and nothing else. That's not the answer for humanity. We want to connect. We have deeper values, and some of us have deep spiritual values, and there's so much more to this. How do we proceed thoughtfully and mindfully from your perspective?
Yeah, I think you almost answered it with that question. The whole stealing of intellectual property and not collaborating with these labels in the first place for those music AI companies specifically, but also, just too much what we talked about previously, for one of the other questions, too much of that, asking for forgiveness instead of permission. I feel like I could go on about all the times that I've been disappointed looking at the news but not surprised. Scarlett Johansson didn't want to be the voice for one of OpenAI's virtual assistants. And so instead they went out to hire someone who sounded very similar to her. And it was very, sure, this impacted one person, Scarlett Johansson, but if I had been in Scarlett Johansson's shoes, I would have been very thrown off by this, angry. This would have felt like an invasion. It's I don't think it's that hard, actually. I think it's just, respecting when people say no. And the whole basis of innovation in Silicon Valley has been collaborating and teamwork. And that's when things seem to go the best way, not just in terms of business, but also what betters society. And especially with these newer AI companies, I think this is all coming from a student's perspective, but I think just being decent, not acting like an LLC, acting like Fernanda, acting like Miluna, you're in charge of these decisions. You're making a direct impact. You're not OpenAI. You're not Meta. You're not Google. You're an employee there, and you're being given power to make very big decisions. So just make them decently. Just respect when somebody says no, and don't try to find a loophole all the time. It makes sense that you want to find loopholes sometimes, but sometimes there's rules there for a reason, so you have to respect those.
Very wise words. And yes, you may have said just a college student. I hope not, because this is such valuable information. And being a human, regardless if you're your age, my age, or 100, these are so important. And thank you. Scarlett has a right to say no. There is something very unusual about show business and celebrities, which I've learned over the years. The public think they own them. Their songs, their personhood, they get up in their business, as you know, and she has her values, and she has what matters to her. She has every right to say no and to respect that. And as you said, let's not become haters and all of this. She doesn't have to give a right to anything belonging to her. Her voice is her own. And one of my favorite financial advisors says there are no tax loopholes. That is an incorrect statement. That is an incorrect word. There are only tax laws that we must go by. But there really aren't loopholes. So some companies just have, 100 CPAs and financial strategists to make the most of their money. They're taking advantage of every tax law possible. But there is a difference. So I appreciate that you said that. Any final thoughts that you want the world to know? And then I want to ask you to share your contact information with people. Let us know, let our audience know how to be connected, we'll say. Reach out to Fernanda.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Miluna, for having me here. This is the first podcast where I am the one being interviewed. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Any closing remarks? We had a lot to talk about tech and from the perspective of a college student. And you're right, it's not less than or more than that of somebody in the workforce or somebody in high school. But yeah, coming from a college student's perspective and a Latina, I want to say that I am very optimistic about where this industry is heading, but I am still very aware of a lot of places where we might fail if people aren't more intentional and thoughtful. Like you said in the beginning, when I joined SJSU and decided I wanted to be a software engineer post-graduation, I was relating a lot of this innovative space to the space race because I had geeked out a lot about the space race in high school. And I was like, well, Silicon Valley is the space race equivalent ecosystem of our time. And I want to be a part of that innovation. And I was wrong, but I'm not pessimistic because I was wrong. I just recognize that I was wrong. I was wrong because the whole nature of it is very different. The space race had a very linear timeline and a very clearly defined goal, putting a man on the moon before a lot of other countries. And Silicon Valley's timeline is a lot more different, and we're constantly going back and fixing mistakes and realizing, oh, these people that we put on a pedestal, we're actually not in the bedhead space, or we're actually not saying the truth, or we're wrong, and that's fine. We're all humans. But I'm not necessarily disappointed at this not being the space race equivalent, but I just recognize that there is a difference. And where I'm headed with this little tangent is I'm excited to be a software engineer. I'm excited to be a part of this ecosystem, and I hope that this ecosystem just becomes more transparent so then more people can be just as proud of it as I am, not being a software engineer, just simply the Silicon Valley being in the United States and there being Americans in the United States. I hope that we can someday all just be very proud of this little corner of our country of people that value innovation and making tools to better our communities. And with that being said, the best ways to contact me is probably through LinkedIn or my email, which I believe are going to be included in the show notes.
Those will be in the show notes. Fantastic. Folks, you've heard wise words from a thoughtful human who just happens to be a college student. So exactly. There we go. I feel with the next generation or the next workforce in a couple of years, we're in good hands. We haven't always set a great example. My generation, generations after me, and I think this generation, from what I see, is extremely smart and extremely thoughtful. And they're willing to take a harder look at things to improve all life for humanity. That's the gift. All so that our planet works for everyone, not just a select few. Fernanda, thank you so much for being my guest, sharing your wisdom and viewpoints. I know the audience will love hearing from you and your perspective right there in the heart of Silicon Valley near San Francisco. Stay tuned. We have more Up-Level Your Communication shows coming soon. I'll be shooting another one next Tuesday. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Be sure to share our show with the key leadership at your company and with your friends. If you know in your heart that you're ready to up-level your speaking, stage presence, and impact, visit milunafausch.com to schedule a complimentary call. You can also purchase my book and our podcast music, Strong Body.
Thank you for enjoying this content by Billionaires in Boxes. If you would like to be a guest or a host, be sure to get in contact with us at billionairesinboxes.com.